live. Good morning, Middleman Matt.
How we doing, man? Good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. So we've been doing FM Focus now since I guess the beginning of 2024. And Middleman Matt and we've interviewed a lot of facility managers back in 2024. This year, we started on Tuesdays having more of the virtual networking. So we've had facility managers coming in at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays, and that'll happen again on this coming Tuesday. But we have Stormy Friday. Some of the folks that you'll see here with us this morning will also join us on that program. So what are we doing today? It's the competition cage. And Middleman Matt, you've heard me talking about this for a while, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. I'm super stoked about it. Should we get the first round in?
Yeah. So we're going to learn a lot today. We're going to bring in folks. What I really like doing, I started in the HVAC world about 7 years ago. I'm no longer in that world, but I love that world. I love talking to people about it. It's very interesting. It's a big deal in these facilities, is it not, Matt?
Oh, yeah. HVAC, especially in the summer, especially in the South, is a big deal for people, and there were some plants that were voting on going union down here, and some of their HVAC went out, and that can be a problem when you're under the gun, as our guest will tell us today.
Absolutely. So it's about the comfort. It's about process. We're going to talk about the different types of equipment. We've got some interesting new products that are on the market. I want to talk about maintenance plans. I want to talk about projects. I want to talk about whatever comes up. And we've got a great group down backstage to help us do this. Please, folks in the crowd, please let us know if you have any questions. Good morning, Kaleem. And let's start introducing some folks. I'm going to start with our one of the very first facility manager that we ever interviewed on this program. That'd be Mr. Trent McJunkin. Good morning, Trent.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Morning.
Yes, sir. Now tell us, you just recently got back from an IFMA trip. Weren't you up in Charlotte for the regional IFMA?
Yeah, for the Carolinas chapter, all the Carolina chapters, it was the Education and Awards Summit. So a lot of good content sessions there and some awards given out. It was a good time to network and get to know some other FMs in the Carolinas.
Absolutely.
Trent, did you sweep the award ceremony this year?
I was fortunate enough to win the Young FM of the Year again. So that was really cool. I really appreciate the folks in that chapter thinking enough of me to nominate me and then vote for me for that award. So that's pretty great.
Very nice.
Love to hear that. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring on great facility managers on to FM Focus that want to share their knowledge, that want to grow their knowledge, that want to communicate, that want to look for a new job. We've got a great crowd today. Thank you guys for joining. Kenneth always says the nicest things. And so we appreciate that. We appreciate the encouragement. And he says, I'm sure today's conversation will be very, very good, is what he said there. So that's awesome. And then my main man, hey, great to have Maham here today, and howdy back to you as well. So let's go ahead and introduce another facility manager that we met this year at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. And she's got a new job, guys. She was going into a new facility. Let's find out how that's been going. That's going to be Sarah the Bomber. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here.
Now I know you've been busy here the last couple of weeks. How are things going on the new gig for you as a facility
They're
manager?
amazing. So I recently moved to Florida for a new position. I'm a director of facilities, been in facilities my entire career, construction, project management, the whole 9 yards. This is a big job. It's consolidating just shy of 200 sites for the first time under one umbrella. It's everything from real estate, facilities, project management within facilities management. Definitely been very, very busy, but recent new add to Florida, and really excited to be here and have this conversation. It's a topic I'm
Absolutely. Well, we're glad you could join us, Sarah. We love your energy, and I know you've done great things in that world, women in construction, women in that field, and you're really ringing the bell. So appreciate you being here. Now we've got some HVAC folks, and we had more that wanted to come, and we had some facility managers. So we wanted to make this happen and get it going, and we're going to learn a lot today from these folks. Aaron Jacobitz is the first person that I wanted to introduce. Aaron, welcome to the program.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Doing well. Now, me and you met at the IFMA meeting that I went to, the Upstate IFMA, and I did a little question and answer similar to what we're doing here. But I thought you asked some great questions, and I've been watching your content on social media. Tell us about what you're doing with Refrigeration Heroes.
Yeah, so Refrigeration Heroes, our footprint is in the upstate of South Carolina, so we cover everywhere from the North Carolina border to the Georgia border, and then now moving over into the Columbia Midlands. And HVAC is actually one of the smaller percentages of the work that we do. We focus on commercial refrigeration and hot side cooking equipment, but obviously HVAC is a big part, especially as we start to move into the manufacturing and facilities vertical. That's something that I really am passionate about, that I'm wanting to head up to get into those bigger facilities who need a good service partner that has a quick turnaround time, has a really strong maintenance plan. So just excited to be on this call and this show with all of the experts here for facilities management. Congratulations, Trent. Sounds like you had a great time in Charlotte.
Thanks, Aaron. It was a great time.
Good.
Yeah. So now we've got somebody with a cool product, and he's done one or two things in the HVAC world. So I want to welcome to this conversation Mr. Devin Cooley. Devin, good morning.
Morning, everybody. How we doing?
Doing good. Now you're up a little earlier than us, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. We've been all right.
Yeah. Well, good. Hope you got your coffee this morning. Share with folks. There it is, and he's got the logo. And now I see everybody. Got to show your drink if you got
That's
it
right,
in your
yeah.
hand there. There we go. There we go. Let me ask you, Devin. Tell folks about what you have been working on over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so in Viric, we are a renewable cooling technology company. And so we are an HVAC OEM, and we're focused on the light commercial market. And so we've developed with our basis of our platform being the renewable collector that we use, the solar thermal collector. It's actually tied into the refrigeration cycle of an air conditioner, which sounds counterintuitive, but we help the heat boost to make the compressor back down, which will affect a 40% savings on the power draw. And so we've now developed beyond that, the actual base air conditioner itself. So we're focused on package units from 5 ton to 15 ton, as well as a 5 ton split that features our collector with them. Now we have this entire platform that is commercial, efficient, and it has data analytics that talk to the cloud, so you can see everything from a facility manager perspective, see what you want to know all the time.
Yeah, so a very, very cool product. We've talked to Devin before about this, and now Devin, I haven't talked to you. I think I saw a post where you've got one of these package units, and I'm going to talk a little bit. We're going to go back to the basics and talk about. Well, let's just do it now. So when we think about, you said you were doing package units. When I first started in HVAC, Aaron, I didn't know the difference between a split system and a package unit. Tell me your story getting into HVAC. Have you tell me how much you know about HVAC? Mute.
So I heard background noise. I don't know if it was me. Everybody was drinking their coffee at the same time.
Okay.
So, so not a ton of history with HVAC. More, like I said, on the commercial refrigeration side and cooking equipment. But the HVAC is really important, as I mentioned, when we start looking at getting into the different verticals, into the manufacturing, into the facilities management, whether it be a larger school, whether it be a medical system, whether it be manufacturing. Like I've had a chance to meet with the folks with my networking with IFMA. So not it's probably I know the least amount HVAC, but what I do know is how powerful and how important it can be to facilities management to make sure that they have a good partner when it comes to the HVAC. And the
Yeah.
energy, like Devin's talking about, that's the hot button in today's market, is how can we make the equipment as efficient as possible, and also from an energy usage. So I'm very interested in hearing about more in detail about what Devin is bringing to the market.
Absolutely. Devin, you've got a package unit, and the package unit at our house, the way that I learned it, and if folks are listening to this that are new to HVAC, what you have at your house very likely is a split system where you've got an outdoor unit and an indoor unit, and a package unit is both of those things together in one unit outside. So you've developed something that runs off the sun and keeps this unit powered, and it's a package unit. And you've actually put one or two on the roof. I don't know, where are you in the manufacturing process now, and how's that going now that we've got something out there?
No, it's good. So we're in beta right now, where we have one up and live in the factory down in Colombia, South America, where we manufacture, and our second one just arrived yesterday in Oklahoma City. And so we're in beta testing now, and we go to AHRI certification next month. So it's
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the maintenance plans and what Trent, looking at a maintenance plan, and Trent and I have talked about this before. We've talked about digging into the different verticals. I know Trent likes to learn about the different things that go on within his facility. Sarah, are you the same way? At least to learn a little bit. The more you know, probably the better it is to work with vendors. Correct, Trent?
Absolutely. You can talk more on the same plane if you at least have a strong grasp on the fundamentals.
Absolutely. And so when you start thinking about who you want your HVAC maintenance partner to be, what sorts of things are you thinking in your mind as a facility manager? You've got a lot of things going on. What am I looking for in a maintenance partner?
Expertise in that field for sure. I want to know that if I have a chiller on my site, I know that you have your chiller expert that'll be coming to my site. If you got somebody who's really good at a certain style carrier unit, I want to know they're coming to my facility. But also I want to know whenever you're doing a PM, whatever that is, does the PM say check blower motor or check belt? What are you checking for? I want to have confidence that your PMs are going to be based on a failure mode, and they're actually going to be practical and applicable. The 30-year guy on the roof should be able to check it just as well as the guy who's been on the roof by himself for 3 months, based on how well you structure your PMs, equipping your technicians to give me the best service as the customer.
Boy, you're giving me so much to work with here, Trent. I love it. I mean, I don't know where to go. But I tell you, a couple of things jumped out to me there. With our maintenance, and of course, I was in that world. I'm not in that world. I work for a great company, but we're going to talk about everything here. The thing is, with the maintenance tech, I amen your point there. Or sometimes our folks that aren't very experienced are the guys that are up there. And hey, I want a good doctor doing my tests sometimes, right? So if he's not trained well, I mean, I could get my friend to do my doctor checkup, but I'd rather have somebody that has some education, right, about this, a little more experience, because what we're looking for is a sign of things that might be going sideways. So that it's a tough position. I mean, from our side, from the HVAC side, hey, we're changing filters. We can get that done with just about anybody that once we learn how to do that. But as they're doing them, I want them to be listening. I want them to be looking for things and try to be hyper aware for additional problems as we look into that. I see you shaking your head, Aaron. Is that something you guys face as a company, trying to balance that experience and the money and trying to stay competitive?
Absolutely. So the one thing that I wanted to mention, when I came on with Refrigeration Heroes as the sales and marketing director, working with the facility managers, I was tasked with redoing our entire PM plan, everything from what we check, what we don't check. And one of the largest issues, one of the most consistent issues that we had was we had a habit of putting our new technicians as the maintenance technicians, and our senior technicians were the service technicians. And the one thing I realized very quickly is we need to have technicians, but we can't have just our apprentices and our new technicians, like Trent mentioned, the 90-dayers doing the PMs all the time. So we actually now have technicians that can do PM, that can do service calls, they can do everything. And I've noticed the satisfaction in our renewals going into 2025 with our PM plans has grown significantly, because our customers, let's just be honest, they're happier with the PM service and what we're checking. And we had 3 levels of PM. We had kind of good, better, best. Now we just have one. The only PM we have is the best one, which is a 14-point check on all the pieces of equipment. So I definitely agree with the conversation, but that was a big piece of what I was able to do, and me and my team were able to do, is have the best technicians doing the PMs.
I like that. Sarah, I saw you shaking your head. I know you've been at several different facilities. You've been working with the maintenance. Give me your thoughts on what we're talking about there.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo and agree with everything everyone said, and I'm going to take it a step further. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is that we have run to failure, preventative maintenance, and then we're moving into this world where predictive maintenance is becoming more and more of a thing. And so when I have my technicians out there, when I'm partnering with a vendor, yes, I want to know we're changing the filters, we're checking the motors, we're changing any belts, hoses, all those things. And I want to know what's our predictive life left. What are we having up? Because as part of my job as a director of facilities is to plan the capital. It's not just the day-to-day, it's the OpEx, but it's also the CapEx. And so as we're working through all of this, I want to understand, hey, yeah, we replaced all these things. Yeah, we checked everything. We, like Aaron said, 14-point check. We're doing all those things. And this is what we're looking at remaining useful life. Asset lifecycle management, especially when it comes to HVAC, is paramount, because yeah, we can be doing all the things, but if we're sitting here and we're deferring capital without the quantitative data to back it. So we're using our CMMS, we're using IoT devices and sensors, we're tying all these things, we're using our BMS system to understand what the useful life left is. I can go to my executive leadership and say, hey, 2026, 2027, this is what we're looking like for capital investment. So we have the now for the OpEx to keep everything running, and we're planning for the CapEx for the replacements of these units, because they're not cheap. I mean, you can look 10,000 to 500,000, depending on what type of system you're doing, all the integrations, if it's supporting manufacturing versus office space. And, and I manage all those different types of spaces, labs, manufacturing, office, warehousing, all of those. And there are different needs. And so for me, when I'm partnering up with a vendor, I want to have that relationship where they can come to me and say, Sarah, we're putting a Band-Aid on it, but it's on its last leg. And you're going to need to plan CapEx, because there's only so much we can do, and we will do our best to keep it running. So here's the report for all the PMs that we did. Here are all the service tickets for the break fix, and putting this together as the whole picture to look at it, saying, hey, you're going to need to invest the CapEx on this.
I love that. We had some other folks that weren't able to make it, that I wanted to bring into that very conversation. The big picture, right? We have to be thinking about, why are we doing maintenance? We don't want it to break. We don't want to be in this very quick to respond mode. But how much is it if this thing breaks down? How much extra life am I getting out of it? I mean, it's very similar to the doctor analogy. If we stay healthy, we're going to get longer life. And the longer life we get, Sarah probably understands all the bean counter numbers of how that impacts us down the road. So that's one of the things that we like to do, is that life cycle analysis. The very first thing, this is what the numbers say just by the age of the unit. This is what the numbers say based on our first pass. So after Aaron does that 14-point check, Muhammad thinks that's an Air Force. He worked on a lot there, but it's a big deal. Devin, tell us about your unit. And someone here said, well, let's talk a little bit about the future of HVAC. I think it comes in the data, right? Tell me when my filters are clogged. And I don't know all about all the technology there, but You know, tell me when my filters are clogged. Tell me when I'm having a problem, and give me some type of warning. And Trent loves the data. Tell us about what yours does for us.
Yeah, so I agree. And we designed with the contractor in mind. That's kind of our whole mantra at Enviric, is to make it easier to work on, to install, work on, maintenance, and repair. And a big part of that is the data. And so we're monitoring temps, pressures, the power draw, across the entire unit. So you can actually have a live EER that is telling you all the time. And so that we can see when you have to send someone out before something actually goes bad. Hey, this is a little bit out of balance, out of whack. And here's the troubleshooting things you know it might need. So when you send your guy out, he can bring exactly what he needs instead of having to do a lot of the troubleshooting on site and have to come back again. And so that's a big one trying to bolster you guys with, is what am I looking at remotely before I actually have to go on site? You can cut down on time on the roof, time, how many visits, et cetera, and keep uptime as high as possible.
That's a big deal. I appreciate that. Aaron, I see you shaking your head. We've got a call. They've got a problem. They don't know what the problem is. Well, which tech do I send? Because I know I've got one that can do this and one that can't. You guys run into that?
Not as much anymore, based on kind of making the change of having the more experienced techs also doing the PMs. However, any predictive data that we can have before we go out to know what it is we're looking at, maybe not necessarily just the skill set of that tech, but from an hours, from a workload. How long are we going to be there? Are we going to get up there and it's going to end up being a 2-day job? And also from our standpoint too, when you start pricing PMs, the more data you can have prior to getting a tech up on that roof, there's a chance that we can get an idea. Do we have the part in stock? Do we have the filters in stock that we need? That's just going to cut down on the labor time. It's going to cut down on what facilities are paying for their PM plans.
Please.
Can I follow up with a quick question? I actually
absolutely
want to ask Sarah
do.
a question about that CapEx. How far in advance is a facilities manager like yourself, or even Trent, how far in advance are you planning and budgeting for those CapEx projects? As a vendor, I think that's very important to know how many PMs we need to do in the time frame before we need to communicate that predictive point that you made.
For me personally, I like to do a 3-year plan, and that may not go to our FP&A, so the financial planning analysis. We may not actually put that number on paper, but from my records, I like to do a 3-year plan because we are going to have to prioritize. In facilities, we do not have a blank check, and so there are going to be times that we do have to defer. And if I understand the 1, 2, 3-year plan, then I can say, okay, this unit, we're getting there, but we can defer that for 3 years. This one, we are absolutely going to have to do next year. So for me, the sooner that can be communicated personally, the better. And so that way I can have that information. I have my CMMS where I'm documenting everything, where I can see all the different assets and the tickets that we have associated with it. So for me, the critical is minimum, like as soon as possible, but for that 1-year plan, that 12-month. For 2025, we were planning, Q3 in 2024 for that 25 year. And so it could potentially be 18 months out for the next fiscal year. And so just kind of running through all those things. Me personally, 3 years is amazing. But 12 to 18 months is ideal.
Okay, that helps a lot. Thank you for that. I want to quantify that from somebody.
That was a great question. I mean, that's a big deal when we start thinking about why are we doing the maintenance and what are the goals of this facility. What are they? I'm gonna see if I can get Trent back in there. I believe we lost him, but what are the goals of the Trent? I wanted to hear what you thought about planning and how much capital expense and that sort of thing goes into your decision making.
3 years a good target because it really depends on your operational risk, and there are some surprises.
Yeah.
Something that we're going to do in 3 years, we might have to do in 2. All these things that a facility manager is responsible for, all these things are jockeying for position as far as priority goes. But as much notice as we can get, the better.
Yeah. And to Trent's point, he hit something that was a great point. Business critical. So if you have an office space where people can work remote, that's going to be less critical than you have like server rooms, and so prioritizing those things that are jockeying. So understanding internally what we have to prioritize based on the criticality for the business is going to be really important as well. And so that is part of that relationship with the vendor. They understand at least 10,000 foot what we do and where it's critical for us in helping us build that case, because it is a partnership. We've talked about this before on one of our Tuesday calls where we have to partner with our vendor. It's not just, hey, yeah, I need this done. It's, hey, Devin, Aaron, this is what I need to do. Let's work through this. Help me prioritize, help me understand what this is going to take, the lead times, install times, all of those things. We can't do that by ourselves, just like they can't do it by themselves. We have to partner on these things.
I love that, and I'm glad that you brought it up. One of that communication up front and really understanding in their minds what's important. I've got process equipment, I've got office equipment, I've got this. If a unit was to break down, which is the one that is absolutely the 911? And so a lot of the folks that I was working with, the answer, and this was a big deal, and I wanted to get Sarah's thoughts on it and Trent's as well. We talked about chillers earlier. How many, not only can you work on this, how many chiller techs do you have that can work on this? I'm telling you that right there, because I've seen it happen both ways, right? Where if you can work on it, and I would love to get Trent's thoughts on this. If you've got a chiller, it's part of your process, and that thing goes down, and it's your number one. I've got to have this going, and you've only got one tech. We've got a problem, don't we, Trent?
Absolutely. And that's part of the role of the FM, is communicating that to your vendors, saying this cannot fail.
Right. And asking those questions going in. And that leads me into, we've talked a lot about trust, Sarah, and went the episode, how do we establish trust as Aaron going in? To me, it's calling out those. Let's not wait on them to ask us how many, let's go ahead and just this is the situation. I would rather get it out now than you call me later and be really upset. I mean, and this is why, and I get passionate about this. This is why we would switch paperwork so much, is because people don't communicate. Yes, this is a good fit for me. This makes a lot of sense. Aaron is talking about the refrigeration. And so immediately in my mind, I knew of accounts where we don't do refrigeration. But now if you were doing refrigeration in HVAC, well, then it's going to make a lot of sense, because we've got a big freezer here. I don't need these goods going bad, right? And so if it came down to, let's face it, only the names change a lot of times with our technicians and the training, et cetera, et cetera. So if the company is set up to take care of my freezer, well, then I don't know why I wouldn't at least consider Aaron for this, correct? Aaron, what has been in your experience in trying to get in with these folks that maybe have a freezer on site? I understand that you're maybe doing some hot, cold type, kitchen equipment, things of that nature. Talk to us about those accounts that maybe have something that would fit your niche specifically.
Sure. And what I found, especially moving into the facility management vertical, working with the bigger manufacturing companies, the places like a Sarah and a Trent are running, and Devin's in as well. It usually starts with the small things. So we are one of our niches. We are experts at ice machines, right? And so when you go in and you've got 4 or 5 major, smaller thing, or something people would say smaller, would that be, let's do a PM plan on your ice machines. Make sure that your employees are getting nice, clean, fresh ice. Make sure that DHEC's not going to come in and ding you. And then that typically leads to, oh, by the way, you can do this. Oh, by the way, you can do this. Oh, by the way, you can do this. So I think it starts with doing an excellent job at the small things and earn that trust to be able to say, hey, now you can get on the roof. Now we can quote this. You know, we have a CapEx project that we're going to go after. You know, now you can do that. And also too, for example, so Wolverine Coatings, I met them at IFMA.
Okay.
They have a chiller that hasn't worked in 6 months. They couldn't get anybody to fix it. So they called, said, hey, can you come look at this? We did. We have somebody going out. We're getting the part to fix it. They're thrilled, and then they also let us quote. They needed they needed a project, a brand new HVAC system in a room to keep their coatings at the right temperature. They were worried that they weren't, and that the material was getting ruined, and that turned into to quoting that job. And so that's what I mean by being there and what we call saving the day for those small things. They can turn into those big things. And I think a lot of companies, they go after the big things and they don't really want to mess with the small. And I think when you think of Refrigeration Heroes as an example, I want it to be full circle.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I call it boots on the roof. We have to do something on the property to show that we can do things. And even if that means it's not a big deal, but we can do that non-big deal thing really, really well. Show them that they can trust us, that we work hard, that we do a great job, that we communicate. So absolutely. I love that. I want to talk to Devin about the thinking that took you into wanting to create this. You were looking at the situation in the HVAC world, and you guys were kind of thinking, what would be a good product to develop here? And tell us about the evolution of the idea and what problems you look to solve with that.
Yeah, what we saw was there was a big lack of innovation, especially on the renewable side for HVAC in general. Right? I know that people took stabs at doing solar electric panels into that world, but it's still the electrical side. But no one was addressing the actual issues in HVAC to improve the cycle and the equipment itself. And so that's what we have to take a hard look at. Okay, what can we improve here? And the refrigeration cycle itself within the AC is where all the power, or a majority of the power, is being drawn. And so as we got around the thermal side, okay, how can we affect that with what the technology we have access to? And so at the time was 2-stage. We played a lot with those, and having the thermal displace that second stage, keeping the compressor in low range. We just kept playing with those since 2014 and kept doing different iterations. And as the technology progressed along with us and got to be actual variable speed. So a lot of this we did in the residential space first, because that's where all that tech lived, and commercial gets it last. And so as we kept down that path, doing it on homes worked, but it's a much bigger pain in the butt because you have to go on the roof of our collector and then pipe into a split system, generally on the ground. A little more laborious, and it was more intrusive to the overall process. With commercial, especially package units, everything's right there on the roof. And so as the technology kind of progressed, and we saw our bigger bang for the buck was commercial systems, easier to get to and easier to install. That's where we said, okay, now it's after 10 years, we're like, we have enough information and data and experience. Now, okay, what would our box look like? And so we designed our package unit and our split, but the package unit to be pre-plumbed and valved for the collectors to pipe in the refrigeration cycle easily, as well as the best we could find for the fans and the compressors. So everything is variable speed. They're all communicating. So we have all that information that from its own vendor tells our control system where the speed of compressor is, what the temperatures of the compressor and the windings, same with the fan, what is the CFM, all that information that the vendor already knows. We're playing all that into our dashboard to then give you the best experience and keep everything up. Right? So we're maximizing, we're optimizing everything to take advantage of what we do with the collector side, but also the air conditioner itself. What is it doing? What can it tell you as the facility manager or the technician to better handle the entire operation and make it easy, less of a pain in the butt?
Let's do this. Let's pretend that Devin is at a facility that Sarah and Trent run, and based on your experience, he's not actually at your door. But if he was, and he wanted to put a new product like this onto a roof, okay, we've got office space, we've got 5 10-ton units up here right now, and we need to, what's the thinking of the higher ups in putting a package unit that's untested but really looks nice on paper? Sarah, anything there?
Being that I work in a lot of critical spaces, tried and true tends to be my
Sure.
go-to. If we were interested in trying something like this, because there are a lot of those green initiatives, renewable energy is huge. You know, the ESG is always a hot topic and hot point of discussion. For me, I would look at leaning into a space that doesn't have critical assets or critical operations or business functions within it. And so maybe looking at an office space smaller and look to see how we can make the use case work first off, and then second, put it on that non-critical space, and then checking the matrix. Are we actually getting the results that we were promised? And driving a lot of that discussion to make sure that what we were promised is what we get. And so, Daniel knows this. I'm very direct, and you either like working with me or you don't. You'll know exactly where we stand. And so if we are getting results, that's awesome. If we're not, I'm going to dive in and ask all those questions as to why, what's going on, where do we need to tweak, where do we need to make improvements. And so for me, to kind of summarize, what's the use case, non-critical space, and look to see if we can scale it. And so every process that I look to put in place needs to be scalable, sustainable, and repeatable. It needs to scale up or down to the site size. It needs to be sustainable, which means we're not putting too much on one or two people, technicians, whatever that is, so we can sustain it over a long period of time. And it's repeatable. And so it's not so unique or so difficult that we can't repeat it going forward. And so those are some of the things that I look for when looking to roll out, especially like these newer systems that don't have a lot of test data, that are in the beta stage and working through it. And so those are some of the things that I would look at.
Awesome.
So what I hear is the bomber part of your name is not on accident, Sarah.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Now I've got to ask Aaron and Devin, and then we're going to get Trent's thoughts on that. Y'all like direct communicators when you're trying to pitch your product and services? Would you rather have that, or would you rather them tell you a lie and have you try to figure it out on the back end?
No, I think direct. I mean, sometimes it's aggressive, sometimes it's not. I would much rather have that, because what that also tells me is that we can be direct. So I can train my sales and marketing people if they're communicating with a Sarah and she wants to know that in 2 years they're going to have to write a much larger check. That tells me that I have permission to do the same thing, and we can have a great relationship and have open communication. And it's not always going to be perfect, but it's always going to be efficient, and it's always going to be impactful. And that's what matters the most to me is what do I need to know to help you and your facilities be the most successful with what we can help. And to me, that's going to allow us to stay as their vendor and their service company and provider for the long term, which is why we do what we do. So 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you? Yeah. You could work with you wouldn't get your feelings hurt and run to the restroom or something, Devin?
No, like what Aaron said, it's efficient and effective communication. And for me too, we always talk about it here. I want all the round words and the fluff. What are we doing? What are we talking about to get to the actual issues and concerns? Right? That way, it's less salesy that way too. Like, what is it you need, and how do we best fit that? And being direct with that too. And we've had several times where in certain projects, we're like, you know what, actually from our chair, this isn't a good fit for you. We're not hitting your needs. We don't want to try to sell you on something that doesn't actually do that, because then that's not a long-term relationship and sale. That's a short-term game, sort of, that doesn't have legs. It's not scalable or sustainable. So I know we agree. Really, here's the hard facts, and then let's just try to drill down and make sure this fits.
Yeah, one of the things that I say a lot is there's no right answer or wrong answer. There is just the answer. Like, I don't need the fluff. I don't need you to try to smooth it over. Like, I've been in this field my entire career. I have a very strong technical knowledge. I understand it. So just hit me with where we're at. Don't blow smoke. Just, I want to know exactly where we're at, because then we get to the root of the issue way faster. And what we do, time is money. And so if we're sitting here and we have this fluff relationship, we're not getting stuff done. And I'm known as the GSD girl. Like, I get stuff done. So just hit me where it's at. I want to know exactly what we're doing, and then we can move forward. We can do a postmortem later, but right here, right now, I need to know what's going on so I can get our business operational again, and then we'll figure it out on the back end.
Yeah. You want good news fast and bad news faster.
Yeah.
Oh,
So can I just
Yes.
add one quick thing?
I
to
need to
that?
clip that one. That's good.
I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely use that.
I'm stealing that one.
I think it's I think well maybe a significant borrow, maybe not steal. No. How
I'm gonna steal it.
You can take and run with it. Take it.
I think it's important though with that communication. You know, we want that to lead to the positive conversations, but I think it's also important to kind of piggyback on that conversation. If there's something that's not a service that we can provide that's top notch, you've got to be able to have a relationship with that facilities manager and that decision maker to say, listen, I'd love to be able to do everything, but you're not going to be happy. This isn't our wheelhouse. Let me give you some folks that I would trust to do that. And I think a lot of people shy away from that because it's like, oh, well, we don't want to have another company come in and do that. Listen, if it's truly about that facility and it's truly about that long-term relationship, they're not gonna kick you out because of that. They're actually, to me, and Sarah, you and Trent can I guess vouch for this or agree, that's gonna build even better trust.
100%. Like, I will respect you more. I will lean into you more. If you tell me this isn't something that we can do well, but I know somebody that can, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to call Aaron again. He's going to tell me the truth.
Yep.
Like, I want the truth. I want to know where we're at. And if you can't do it, it's better that you tell me up front.
Yep.
Because what happens is if you try to do something that you're not good at, then I'm going to lose trust in everything else you do. If you do what you do well and you tell me, hey, I don't do this well, we can give it a shot to get you through until you get another vendor in, but we don't think we can do this. My God, you're going to be on my speed dial 100% of the time. And trust and believe, the amount of money that I spend right now, you want to be on my speed dial. Like hundreds of millions of dollars in OpEx.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Trent, what do you think? You've been talking to quite a few vendors, quite a few projects and relationships. How big is communication and the way that I interact with the tip of the spear for this company?
I think that it goes back to being able to communicate proactively. I shouldn't have to chase you down for updates. If we have a rooftop unit and say a V-belt fails, you should be the first one saying, hey, we had this failure, V-belt failed, here's why it failed, here's what we're going to do. It was vertical misalignment on the pulleys. We're checking all the other ones. We got it. Cool. I don't need to get lost in the details. I need to know that somebody is in the weeds, that's not me, is running the ball. And you do that consistently, that's going to build a lot of trust, and that's going to say a lot about your integrity as a vendor. And like Sarah said, once I trust you and I know that you have the best interest of the facility in mind, we're going places.
Yep.
I will say this. In my experience working with facility managers and being around salespeople doing lead scripts and that sort of thing, some folks, no matter what their job is, are going through the motions, right? They are collecting a paycheck. They don't really care. Those are very tough in my experience to work with. I would rather have folks like Trent and Sarah that say, I am trying to run the best facility that I possibly can. And so that does away with all the games. That now we've got a level playing field and people are, okay, I need to really think, how can I help Trent win? That's really what it comes down to. How can I help Sarah win? She's facing pressures. She's trying to do her job well. She wants all of the things that come from that. And so I think that it's important to match make, to really know this is what we're looking for. This is what we're good at. As Aaron says, call out the elephant in the room. This is good. This is not good. And then we have ongoing relationships. We have people that we can trust, even if we're not doing business with them. I mean, I have folks, and if you're a facility manager, please, this doesn't change. Call me because I'm always going to tell you what I see from the people I'm talking to and where you should look. We need people like that, don't we, Trent, that are going to tell us when it's not, they're not trying to step on every doggone dollar that flies by them.
Yeah. The people who will jump and try everything are going to have a short life in a facility. anybody that comes and says I can do everything better than everybody else, the flag goes up for me because odds are it's not going to go well.
Hey, let's put Devin to the test here. We've got this facility. I've got a clean room, and I'm thinking about putting one of your units up there. Now, maybe I don't know what the answer to this is, but I kind of think like Sarah does. Like I'm thinking about your unit in an office area when this facility is really concerned about environment and sustainability and check marks and things like that. And then I would want to promote that for the facility. Like I feel like that would be part of your marketing package. Can you tell us how you get on folks' radar and how you say, hey, look at me, you should look at this?
Yeah, we really go after the pain, right? Where do you have the most pain? And so talking to the businesses that use a lot of cooling, whether it's for the offices or their operations or different parts of the building that need the biggest cooling draw and the biggest power usage, that's where we go for discovery. Like, okay, how has your HVAC experience been so far, and what would you describe as your ideal experience? And what you're looking to replace this? Why? Is it because it's failing? Is it the OEM vendor issue? Is it the service was too much of a pain in the butt because it took too much? As Sarah said, it's too involved to do regular PMs. So we look for what is it's paining you, and how can we be a painkiller, not just a vitamin?
I like that. Yeah, that's great. he's got the one-liners. I'm gonna have to go back and
I like these one-liners, Devin. They're good. They're good.
I'm gonna say, give me Devin's lines.
Yep.
And that's what we're looking for, right? And like Sarah said, non-critical to start. We're gonna try something, and I don't want to come in there. And we actually had this, years back in our first couple of years. We got talking to the American Red Cross here in the Southwest, and the facility manager was handling. They handled the blood bank for the Southwest. Because hey, I got this project, I got this chiller, the other units. Can we put some of your technology on here? And we go, I love the interest, but absolutely not. And they're like, what? I'm like, no. I'm like, we're not even talking about frozen peas and carrots. This is the Southwest blood supply. So I appreciate this, but I got a couple of buddies you can call that do chillers like this, but this is not our play.
Just what Aaron was saying. That's exactly right. Just what Aaron was saying.
You got to be comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's the elephant in the room. It tells me that you're a human being and that you're not just trying to make it happen. Devin got the point, 007. That's my nickname, by the way, 007. If y'all didn't know that. And we did have a technical question over here, and this is more high level type stuff, but this is great, guys. This is great. I want to talk to Trent about the experience that you've had on what separates as you work with vendors and you're trying to run this facility and you talk to folks. And I know you've mentioned things to me. Talk to Aaron about when somebody is trying to get on your radar, things you look for, how somebody can quickly get off your radar, and anything that you see from a service provider standpoint that you think might be good to share.
Let's see. Daniel, maybe you can tell me why, but everybody loves line cards, and line cards go to the same place as the pay-per-line catalog. You can't drop that off at the front desk and expect me to call you back. But I think Aaron's doing a great thing, joining IFMA, getting in front of some FMs, and really building that reputation. I mean, I know I can call Wolverine Coatings now, and I say, hey, what do you think of Aaron at Refrigeration Heroes? And I know I'll get some feedback from people I trust. Proximity is key. You have to be around the facility managers. You have to get your name out there. That way it's not the guy who drops off a line card every quarter. It's Aaron, and I know that he knows his stuff. And before I give him $1, I know that he's about it. He has integrity. He's going to try to do the right thing. And it may just be ice makers for me, but it may lead to something else. So I have to have that faith that you're going to, your stuff, your wheelhouse, and what's outside of that wheelhouse as well.
Can I unpack that just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Something that I've noticed about IFMA that I've learned as much in this IFMA group, in this facilities management vertical, if you will, from the folks that are at the networking that I've met, that we like the landscape, like we can't really, like landscaping is not something that we can really have anything to do with. There's 3 or 4 industries that are part of it that I learn as much, if not more, from just conceptually about networking and conversations and the pains, as Devin said, than I have. And that's what's so exciting. There's as much value in the non-selling what Refrigeration Heroes does to facilities managers in these groups than the people that we can help directly. And that, to me, that's what's important is that networking group and that camaraderie between everything that we do. And even if our products and services isn't a fit, the information and the education is as value as any of the sales.
Yeah, you understand your customer.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love about IFMA is that I can research company. You know, everybody drops off the catalogs, cold calls, sends me emails. Like, that's not going to win me over. What's going to win me over is having conversations like this. For too long, and this is something I'm so passionate about in my career and just about facilities as a general statement, is there has been silos. There has been gatekeeping. There has been all of these things, and we have to tear that down. If we truly want what's best for the customer, for the Trents and the me's, like, we have to have these conversations. We have to tear this down. Show me your technical knowledge. I don't care. This is going to sound terrible, but I don't care about your company. Like, I do, but I don't need the salesy thing. I don't. I absolutely don't. That's what's going to win me over. If you sit here and you try to tell me how great you guys are, okay, that's awesome. Let me go to IFMA. Let me go to some of my peers. Let me go talk to these people. Mm-hmm. What kind of service do they deliver? What are their SLAs? You know, when I call, do they answer? Can I get a tech out here on a 911 as quick as possible? Those are the things that are missed in the salesy piece of everything. I don't care about the sales. Sorry. You showing up every single day and doing your best, that's what I care about. And you get that in IFMA. You get those very real conversations, not the right answer, the wrong answer, just the answer. And telling me, hey, we can't do this, but we can do that. But here's someone who can help you with this problem. That's what's going to win me over 100% of the time.
When we can get things on a human being level, when we're not playing these games of like, I'm in a salesperson and I'm going to tell you that everybody's saying their company's great. Everybody's going to say great things about their company. But when we can really just talk about needs, talk about communication, proximity. Trent, you know, that's one of my favorite words. You have to have proximity to know, like, and trust. If you don't have proximity, you've got a problem. And with that, I always talk about with romantic relationships, and relationships are relationships. Let's face it. The psychology makes sense in a romantic relationship. You ask somebody that's got a partner, if they want to go on a date, it's going to be a short cold call conversation. They're not going to know anything about you. You ask her to go on a hike with a church group, well, then maybe you're going to have proximity. I'm not saying break up relationships. I'm trying to make a point that in order to have good relationships, we need to have proximity, and they need to know who we are. They need to know, like, and trust us as they watch us hike up the mountain and help the little old lady up the mountain or whatever it is. That's kind of what I mean. Opportunities like this to talk and share what we know and kind of humanize ourselves. Mm-hmm. You know, we've all had those deals where we've talked to them in the building and they sound one way. We go to lunch and we find out, we get down to the nitty gritty. We have a real conversation where we can figure it out. Talk to me about pricing, and when you've got tight numbers and you've talked to people and you're talking to people in the organization and y'all are trying to make a decision, help us think through why we lose deals sometimes. You know?
I think there you really have, if you just throw me a number and you don't tell me what's in that number, it may be 30% more than what I was expecting to spend. But if you don't deliver the value with that price, I don't know what I'm paying for. I feel like you're trying to gouge me. And I mean, I've been doing this a little while now, so I know that you're probably not trying to gouge me, but I know that you're not giving me all the info I need to make the best decision.
Yeah. One of the big things that I look at in facilities, the procurement process falls outside of the normal procurement process, like working through with our buyers and everything. They don't necessarily understand what we do. And so they're looking at who's the cheapest. One of my favorite lines is, we get what we pay for. In facilities, cheap is not always the right answer. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's down and dirty. It's a non, like, and I hate to say this, Aaron, but maybe it's an ice machine. And yeah, those are important for the employee appreciation, retention, the employee happiness. But if I have a critical chiller that runs manufacturing or server room or whatever we're looking at, cheap isn't always going to be the best thing. So to Trent's point, tell me the why. Why are we there? What service, what am I getting with that number? Because I have to understand that to take my leadership and say, hey, we went out to 5 vendors. This one's the cheapest, but we don't want to go with them. And this is why. Here's the most expensive. And maybe we do want the most expensive one, because you get what you pay for. It's all about, it's not just the number. What do we get with the number? Is it a quicker SLA? Can I get someone on site in 90 minutes instead of 4 hours? Those types of things. And for critical units, time is money. And so if we're losing revenue every minute, that 2.5 hour gap, it could cost us more than that increase in service. I mean,
an hour you pay later.
Yep, exactly. That 2.5 hours is huge. And this is why we need to do it. And so to Trent's point, 100%, it may be 30% more, but why is it 30% more? Understanding the why behind everything is so important. And that's where IFMA and places like that are huge, because it's the knowledge sharing. It's helping us learn and understand the why behind all of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think you get in front of that too. I've had vendors tell me from the vendor side, hey, we're not going to be the cheapest, but we can be the best because we're not the cheapest. If you want the cheapest, that's not us.
Yeah.
If that's your stance, own that. So, and if I'm going to go with you there, you better make good on being the best.
Aaron, you go.
I've had to tell a lot of people, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what I mean by uncomfortable is sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but I'll tell you right now, we're not the least expensive, but most companies aren't going to across the board give you a 14-point inspection on your system either. And with our PM plan, just for example, Sarah, this is not a plug in any way. I'm not selling a thing. Just facts, right? But if you have a PM with us and then you need the service call, we're giving you 20% off of labor.
Exactly.
And so we gotta get a person up there. We want to do the best job we can on the PM. So we're not going to be the cheapest. However, when you have that, 10 o'clock at night call, instead of paying the overtime rate, you're going to get 20% off of that. So where can we help you to make sure that we're giving you the service you need, even though we're not going to be the least expensive?
Exactly. And maybe part of that increase is, hey, these are critical units. We advise having 4 additional motors on site in a cabinet in your facilities cage. So we're not waiting for a delivery. We don't have to order this part. We don't have to order this piece. And so it's so much more than that. It's the whole plan. It's the whole vision. It's, we hear you. We see you. I've had so few vendors come to me and say, I understand what you're doing, and these are the additional steps that we need to take to make sure that you remain operational. Hey, it's normally a 2-week lead time for this motor. It's normally a 3-week lead time for this special part or special piece. We advise ordering it, having it on site at our facility, so that our tech can come to your site and install this, so you are back up and running faster. It's so much more. It's the holistic picture. That is the difference between a normal everyday, I'm not going to pick up the phone when you call, versus, hey, you are my speed dial person because you came in, you understood what we do, you understood why it was critical, because that is what makes the difference. Of, hey, yeah, we can give you this lowball price, and yeah, we may win the bid, but I am going to lose in front of my executive leadership staff. Why did this go down? Why did we lose this revenue? Versus, hey, we got back up and running in less time than we thought we were going to, because the vendor told us what parts and pieces and materials we needed to have on site to get operational again. That's the difference between winning and losing, and at the level that I'm at. That is what's going to win my business every single time.
Trent, Anything come to
I like
mind?
what
We're
you said
closing
there,
this
Sarah.
out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I liked how Sarah said that she said these things are critical, and then the vendor took that as ding, 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 and they run the ball. If it's coming from myself or Sarah saying, all right, these things are critical, and you just stare at me from across the table, okay, where's your thought process at? Okay, if I'm a vendor, I'm thinking these things are critical. I need to go get whatever the recommended critical spares are. I need to be more intentional about my PM plan here. I do need to do maybe some vendor managed inventory if there's a 6-week lead time on a motor. Are we going to look at vibration on that motor? How do I deliver more value to your critical assets? Because if something goes south in an office, but my chiller never goes down, that's perfectly fine.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, we got time for one more because Aaron, this has been great. Go ahead.
How important, I feel it's important working with facility managers to come by and have the facility be important even when there's nothing that's wrong. So what I myself and my team, listen, stop by even though there's not a problem, just to let facility managers know that we care about the facility. What would you say from a cadence? What would be too often and what would be not often enough if we were working with your facilities?
Well, you bringing food?
Well, I don't know. If Sarah thinks that's salesy, no, but maybe Trent.
Only if Sarah doesn't think it's salesy though.
Yeah. For me, I absolutely love quarterly. There are some other assets and some other vendors like that monthly is good, especially if it's super critical, if it's a complex business need. If we've had changes recently, and again, that's that relationship. You understand, hey, we have this new build going on. We've installed this new process and we put this in place. Understanding that is going to be variable. Quarterly is always a great, sitting down, getting in front of me in person. Quarterly is awesome. But if we have changes going on, hey, how's that project going? Can I stop by and take a look? Okay. And doing it and adapting is great. But then, so short answer, quarterly is awesome. Longer answer, understand our relationship, understand what my business has going on and getting out there as those changes come up.
Thank you.
Trent?
Yeah. You start with quarterly. And as the business dictates, I mean, once you build that relationships, you can probably get into the site without Sarah or myself there, and come do some quality control checks on your own without me asking you to.
Yep.
That way you can say, hey, found this. We're getting on top of it. We're knocking it out. Proximity. Everything goes back to proximity. Don't pester me every day, but know that I feel like I need to know that you care about the facility as much as I care about the facility.
Absolutely. A couple of things here that I just want to hit before we close out. That was, if somebody sends you an equipment list and we're just quoting the equipment list without this conversation, you've got to ask yourself, do you really want to quote that? Right? I mean, you have to have these conversations. I'm going to go back to the chiller one that we had earlier. They're looking at these quotes. A quote comes in and it's cheaper. Both companies have said, yes, we can work on your chiller. One's got 1 and one's got 3. And you've got problems with your chiller. You might be paying because they're going to have the manpower to actually make it work. And so it's just the depth. There's usually a reason why. Look, we're all working in very similar business structures. These numbers should be tight. There's got to be something. So we have to dig a little deeper to understand it. And if we say that we're being the best and we're charging that much, we got to back it up, right? I've noticed Aaron and his team, they're doing the things that tell me, okay, if they're charging a little extra, they're doing the little extra, right? I mean, that's fine. So just as long as that's happening, I'm happy with that. This has been great, y'all. We had some show up, but some didn't, and this has been a great group. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Devin. We want to hear great things about all these package units, and I think we're going to. So, Trent, thanks for coming on this morning, and Sarah the bomb, man, you dropped it on us this morning. Thank you, and hey, y'all have a great weekend.
You too.
Thanks so much.
Same to you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
See ya.
See y'all. Bye.